So I'm going to press that seller button, and it takes me into my NetSheet program. This is the number one most widely used program in the app across the nation, and that is because all these sellers want to know is one thing. They want to know how much they're going to walk with on potentially the largest sale of their life, and this is going to be the tool that you're going to want to have and use to give them answers to that question. Now, thanks to these defaults, once again, all that's required is a sales price, a loan balance, and an estimated closing date. Just those three input fields: sales price, loan balance, closing date. Hit compute. That'll get you close enough to tell your seller roughly what they're going to walk with. But for you guys to better understand the app and know how to use this thing, I do want to go through this input screen with you. So I'm going to put a home price or sales price of $320,000 in there. Now the broker fee can be altered to a different percentage or a dollar amount. But more importantly, if we press on that input field, we've got a settings gear that shows up on that broker fee input field, and that's where you can go in and tweak how you get that split. So we can change it to a 4-and-2 split. It's going to default to that 3% split, but we could change to a 4-and-2 split. Or if we want to go in here and maybe put a flat fee on one side or both sides, we can do that as well. $5,000 to that listing agent, and then 3% to that buyer's agent. So we can actually go in here and edit that split with that settings gear. Any money that needs to be allotted for repairs can go in the repairs section, and the miscellaneous section is for any one-time closing cost transaction fee. Things like seller's contribution, HOA transfer fee, anything like that can be put in this miscellaneous section. You can put it in here as a lump sum, or if you want to go in and itemize all those things out, you can press that settings gear and itemize those miscellaneous costs out. There's even a place in the miscellaneous to subtract from the closing costs, usually used on the buyer's side, but you can actually subtract from the closing costs via that settings gear on miscellaneous. Property taxes, I showed you how to address those taxes, so I'm going to skip that and jump down to loan balance. Now, loan balance, we actually have a loan balance calculator in our calculators tab, but we've also tied it to this input field with this settings gear. Now, the reason we have a loan balance calculator is because every time that you guys are working up these net sheets for your sellers, they don't always know how much they still owe on their payoff. They know when they started their mortgage roughly, but they don't know how much they still owe. Well, like I said, we've got that loan balance calculator. So if that buyer's been making if that seller has been making regular payments on the house that they're buying, we can actually calculate how much they still owe with just a little bit of information. So if I'm working up my net sheet here for my seller and I ask them how much they still owe on their payoff and they don't know, not a problem, Mr. Seller. I can calculate how much you still owe if you've been making regular payments. I'm going to press on this settings gear. It's going to take me into my loan balance calculator where now I can put in the home price. So they bought the house for $300,000. They put $65,000 down. So I'll type in $65,000 for that down payment. And then let's jump down here to loan start date. Now, they don't know exactly when they started their mortgage, but they'll know roughly. They'll say something like, hey, it was back in 2002. It was at the beginning of the year, so maybe February of 2002. You know what? A month and a year, that's close enough for me to calculate how much you roughly still owe. So I'm going to put in February of 2002. Now, if they don't know what interest rate they got on that payoff, we've actually loaded in historical interest rate data. So I can come to my interest rate input field and press this settings gear. You'll see that a map or a graph pops up, and I can actually go in here and scroll back to 2002. I can see a high rate, a low rate, and an average rate. I'll stick with the average rate and press that use button up there in the top right corner. It loads it into my loan balance calculator here, the 6.54 average for 2002. And now I'm going to hit compute. And now I'll be able to tell my seller, hey, if you've been making regular payments, you still owe about $151. Now we were still working up our net sheet, you guys, so I'm going to go ahead and press that use button. And when I do, it loads not only the loan balance, but also the interest rate into my net sheet here. Lastly, I could choose an estimated closing date. I'm going to go ahead and stick with December 8th. That closing date's going to default to 2 months out for you, but you can always change that. And I'm going to go ahead and press compute. Just like that, I am going to be able to tell my seller that they're looking to walk with about $138,000 here. Now, all the functionality that I showed you guys on the buyer side is available here on the seller side as well. So I can itemize those closing costs, go in there and tweak the numbers if I need to. I can press and hold on the screen and shoot that snapshot over to my client if I just want to tell them how much they're going to be able to walk with without showing the whole breakdown of the closing costs. If I do, however, want to send that full 2-page report or save this for loading up on a different device, I can press that share icon and get all those same share options. Um, Saving, creating that great looking report with the photos and the several different styles, translating all that cool stuff I showed you on the buyer side. And of course, I can edit my results. So if I'm working with that seller who says, hey, 130 looks okay, but I thought you and I talked about me being able to walk with 155. I really need 155 for this new house that I found. Well, Mr. Seller, if you need to walk with $155,000, let me type in 155, hit done, and we're going to be able to recalculate and tell you that if you're trying to walk with 155,000, we're actually going to have to sell your house for about 338. And if houses in this neighborhood just aren't selling for 338, rotate your device to start talking about the comps in the area. What we're going to do when you rotate that device on the seller net sheet inputs or result screen is we're going to run 5 net sheets at once for you. So now you can say, hey, Mr. Seller, I know you've got your heart set on listing this at 340, but houses in this neighborhood are selling for more like 320. The house down the street, it sold for 328, but they've got an extra bathroom. We've got one less bathroom than them. I really think we need to price it at 320 for it to move quickly. Does 138 still get you where you're trying to go? Being able to lay out these 5 different sales prices and 5 different net at close numbers is really going to help you guys talk that unrealistic seller down to a more realistic listing price. And if that doesn't work, we can talk about carrying costs. If a seller wants to list a house too high and it sits on the market for an extended period of time, they're going to be paying certain things while that house sits on the market. They're going to, of course, be paying taxes, insurance, and interest while that house sits on the market, but they're also going to be paying other things like HOA, lawn care, pool maintenance, all of these different things that they pay while that house sits on the market. Well, what we can do is we can swipe left on our seller net sheet result screen, and it's going to take us to a holding cost calculator. It's going to actually calculate automatically the taxes, interest, and insurance that house accumulates over 3, 6, 9, and 12 months here. I can edit the expenses. Earlier I mentioned being able to add HOA, pool maintenance, lawn care, all of those different things that seller's paying while that house sits on the market. All of that can be added in edit expenses. And then on the far right side, you can actually toggle over to show the days. Maybe 3, 6, 9, 12 months is too long of increments for our seller specifically. Well, we can press that months and change that to days, hit done, and it's going to run all that same information at 30, 60, 90, and 120 days. So 2 really powerful ways for you guys to address working with that unrealistic seller. All right, if I swipe back over to my results screen for my net sheet, on the left side, we've got multiple offer comparison tool. So if I swipe right on my net sheet results screen, it's going to take me to that page on the left. It's the multiple offer comparison tool. I can use this to compare up to 12 different offers. Really got some important data points here with contingency and home warranty. So you can really go in here and differentiate these different offers. You can even edit the closing costs for each of your offers. Now in the top left corner, you'll notice that there's a star. When you're building out your offers, you can actually star and show which offer you talked about with that seller. Hey, we sat down, we talked about it for a good while. We agreed this offer is going to be the best one. So I just wanted to note that on my report. And so I've gone in and starred that offer, that initial offer there for you. Now you can compare up to 12 different offers with this. Just going through the process of adding new offer down here at the bottom is how you'll do that. So that is the seller program.